The groove in the canyon wall was so small that most people would never notice it. No wider than a fingernail. Just a thin, uneven line in ancient stone. But Desmond Fear had been watching it for weeks. And now, he could follow it without even looking. Every night after work, he walked the same path along the canyon wall of Drathis 4. Same steps. Same silence. Same cold wind cutting through the rocky desert. He would stop at the same place and trace the groove with his fingers. Stone older than any known civilization. Older than any recorded history. And somehow, it felt familiar. He didn't know why. But it calmed him. Above him, the research base glowed faint blue against the dark sky. A floating dome of light in an empty world. Inside it, the greatest minds of multiple alien species had gathered. And they had achieved nothing. 11 months. That was how long the expedition had been here. 11 months of failure. They called it the Vault of Neuroth. A structure buried deep inside the canyon floor. Detected decades ago by deep scan satellites. But never opened. Not once. Not even slightly. They had tried everything. Energy pulses. Resonance scans. Molecular cutting beams. High-frequency shock drills. Even brute force excavation. 3-diamond drills shattered trying. After that, they stopped trying to force it. And started studying it instead. But that led nowhere too. Because the vault refused to respond. It didn't resist like a normal structure. It ignored them. Like it didn't care they existed at all. Desmond Fear was not part of the research team. Not really. He was maintenance. The man who fixed broken systems. Sensor relays. Habitat seals. Power junctions. Dust-corroded wiring. He kept the base alive while others studied things that refused to be understood. The Iranian Directorate hired him for one reason. Human hands still worked where machines failed. And machines failed often on Drathis 4. The mineral dust here ate technology alive. Circuits died in weeks. Robots broke faster than they could be repaired. But humans adapted. So Desmond stayed useful. And invisible. That night, after his shift, he returned to his bunk. Small room. Barely enough space for a cot and a folding desk. He pulled out something the others laughed at. A paper notebook. Real paper. Metal-bound spine. Old Earth design. He had brought 6 of them from home. The aliens called it primitive. Desmond called it thinking. He opened it. Inside was a drawing. Not random. Not art. A pattern. A copy of the grooves on the canyon wall. Line by line. Section by section. He had been mapping it for 2 weeks. And something was starting to appear. At first it looked natural. Random erosion. But the more he drew, the less random it became. The lines connected. Not randomly. Intentionally. Channels flowed into junctions. Junctions split into branches. Branches fed into pressure points. And all of it formed a structure. A machine. Desmond stared at the page for a long time. Something in his chest felt strange. Heavy. Like standing at the edge of something too large to understand. Not fear. Recognition. But he didn't know of what. A soft voice broke the silence. Still drawing. Ren stood in the doorway. A small Polari technician. Grey skin. Big dark eyes. Always fidgeting with his hands when nervous. Desmond didn't look up. Still drawing. Ren stepped closer and looked over his shoulder. He tilted his head. Then tilted it again. That looks like a lock, he said. Desmond paused. Yes. Rein blinkt. A lock for what? The wall, Desmond said. Rein Frau ned. The canyon wall. Desmond nodded. Ren went quiet. Longer than usual. The alien slowly sat down on a crate beside him. The geologists said it's erosion, Ren said. They are wrong, Desmond replied. Ren studied the drawing again. His fidgeting stopped. That meant something important. You should show Director Savani, he said. Desmond didn't answer immediately. He looked at the page. At the impossible structure forming under his hands. I will, he said finally. But not yet. That night, Desmond couldn't sleep. He lay on his cot staring at the ceiling. Outside, the wind scraped across the canyon. Far below, the grooves waited in silence. A silence that had lasted for something far older than human history. Deep beneath the rock, something shifted. Not much. Just a fraction. A single hidden mechanism moved. 1 degree. Like a machine waking up after a long dream. And somewhere inside Desmond's mind, something responded. A feeling. A pull. Like a door, remembering a hand that once touched it. Morning on Drathis 4 didn't feel like morning. There was no real sunrise here, just a pale grey light bleeding through a permanent haze of mineral dust. The canyon stayed cold, quiet, and unchanged, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Desmond stood at the base of the canyon wall. His notebook was open in his hand. The groove was right in front of him again. Same place. Same impossible line carved into ancient stone. But now, it didn't feel like a mystery. It felt like a message waiting to be finished. Behind him, Ren set up a portable scanner. The small Polari moved quickly, adjusting the device with focused precision. "This will record everything," Ren said. "If anything changes, we'll know." Desmond didn't answer. He was already tracing the groove with his eyes. The pattern was becoming clearer every hour. Not random. Not natural. A system. A design. Something built with intent, spread across the entire canyon wall. Like a lock stretched over kilometers of stone. Back at the Habitat Dome, Director Savani was not impressed. She listened to Desmond for exactly 90 seconds. Then raised one of her forearms. "Stop." Her voice was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm used when explaining something obvious to someone who refuses to understand. "Desmond," she said carefully, "those grooves have been studied for 40 years. 3 independent geological teams confirmed the same conclusion. They are natural formations. Erosion patterns caused by wind and thermal stress." She paused. "They are not mechanical." Desmond placed his notebook on the table between them. Open. Full of drawings. Clean lines. Interlocking paths. Pressure nodes. Mechanical symmetry hidden inside stone. "With respect," he said, "I've spent 15 years working with broken machines. I know what erosion looks like. And I know what a designed system looks like." He tapped the page. "This is designed." Savani didn't react immediately. She looked at the sketches, but her expression stayed unchanged. Not curiosity. Not doubt. Just dismissal. "You are a maintenance contractor," she said. "You repair habitat systems and sensor relays. This is not your field." The room went quiet. Other researchers stood nearby. Alien scientists from multiple species. All watching silently. Waiting for the conversation to end. Desmond felt something tighten in his chest. Not anger. Something worse. Frustration mixed with certainty. Because he knew he was right. And no one believed him. "I don't need it to be my field," he said quietly. "I just need it to be real." Savani closed the tablet in front of her. "That is enough." Her tone shifted. Final. Dismissive. "Return to your duties." And just like that, the conversation ended. Not with proof, but with authority. Desmond left the room without another word. The corridor felt longer on the way out. Like the base itself was pushing him away. Ren caught up with him later in the equipment bay. Desmond was sitting on a storage crate, notebook open again. He was drawing faster now. More precise. More urgent. "She shut you down," Ren said quietly. Desmond didn't look up. "I expected that."
"No," Ren replied.
"You didn't." That made Desmond pause. Ren climbed onto the crate beside him, his small legs swinging slightly. Then he leaned closer. "I checked something," Ren said. Desmond finally looked at him. "What?" Ren hesitated, then activated his scanner. A holographic display flickered into the air. Deep scan data. The sealed vault door beneath the canyon. Internal structure. Millions of layered mechanical components. Perfect symmetry. Perfect complexity. Desmond's eyes narrowed. What am I looking at? Ren's voice lowered. The inside of the vault. A beat. Then. And your groove pattern. Ren overlaid the image. The two systems aligned. Perfectly. Not similar. Not close.
Exakt.
Every channel on the canyon wall matched a mechanism inside the sealed vault. Every pressure point aligned with a lock node. Every curve had a function. The room went silent. Even the scanner stopped humming for a moment.
Rein whispered.
This is not erosion. This is the key. Desmond stared at the overlay. His breathing slowed. Something deep in his mind clicked. Not emotionally. Mechanically. Like a system recognizing its missing part. But then something colder followed that realization. A question no one had answered yet. Why would anyone build a lock like this? A lock that required hands. Real hands. Not machines. Not energy fields. Not AI systems. Hands. Who builds something like this? Ren asked quietly. Desmond didn't answer. Because he didn't know. But something inside him did. That same pull. That same strange recognition. It was getting stronger. Not outside him. Inside him. That night, Desmond didn't sleep again. He stayed in the equipment bay. Filling page after page. Expanding the pattern. Connecting sections of groove he hadn't physically visited yet. But somehow, could still see. His pencil moved faster. Too fast. Like he wasn't thinking anymore. Just remembering. By morning, the pattern was complete. Or at least, enough of it. A full mechanical sequence. Spread across kilometers of canyon wall. A distributed lock system. Built on a scale no civilization should need. Ren looked at the final drawing. His voice barely came out. If this is right. He swallowed. Then we can open it. Desmond closed the notebook slowly. I know.
Rein hesitated.
Are you going to show Savani now? Desmond looked toward the canyon wall. The grooves waiting outside. Silent. Patient. Like they had always been waiting. No, he said finally. I'm not going to show her. A pause. Then. I'm going to open it.
Rein froze.
For a moment, he said nothing. Then quietly. When? Desmond stood up. And picked up his notebook. Tomorrow. The silence didn't last long. It never did in this war. A new wave of blue flashes appeared across the tactical screen. But this time, something felt wrong in a different way. Nat squinted at the data. They changed something, she said. John was already watching. Yes, he replied quietly. They adapted again. The dreadnought wasn't just firing anymore. It was waiting. Waiting for human responses. Waiting for commands. Waiting for intent. Then reacting before that intent became action. Nat's voice tightened. They're not predicting our moves anymore. John finished it. They're predicting our decisions. A heavy silence dropped over the bridge. That was worse. A lot worse. Because decisions weren't physical. They were thought. And if the enemy could reach that layer, then there was nowhere left to hide. The tactical display flickered again. Human fleets attempted coordinated strikes. But every formation collapsed before execution. Ships drifted into positions they never intended to take. Weapons fired into empty space that had just been occupied.
Nat gritted hertid.
This isn't combat anymore, she said. It's correction. Like they're fixing mistakes before we make them. John watched carefully. Then he noticed something small. A delay. Not in human systems. In the enemy fleet. Just a fraction. A hesitation. He leaned forward. Pause the replay, he ordered. Nat did. The screen froze on the dreadnought. John zoomed in. There, he said. Nat followed his gaze. At first, she saw nothing. Then she noticed it too. One of the enemy ships, slightly misaligned. Not damaged. Not destroyed. Just late. Every jump, John said slowly, costs them synchronization. Nat's eyes narrowed. You're saying they're slipping? Yes. A new alarm blared. Temporal field instability detected. Enemy formations desynchronizing. Net blinks. That's new. John nodded. They're pushing their system too hard. Nat turned sharply. To stay ahead of us. To stay ahead of time itself. A pause. Then she whispered. So they're burning their future just to see ours. John didn't answer immediately, because that was exactly what it looked like. Outside the ship, the dreadnought fired again. But this time, something changed. A volley of human missiles actually hit. Not all of them. Not even most. But enough. Explosions flashed across the enemy formation. And for the first time, the dreadnought moved after impact. Nat's eyes widened. It reacted late, she said. John's expression tightened. They're losing precision. The bridge erupted in quiet tension. Hope didn't return. But something else did. Possibility. Nat straightened slightly. If they're slipping, she said, then they're not untouchable. John nodded slowly. But they're still ahead. A pause. Barely, he added. Another flicker on the display. Enemy ships adjusting. Correcting. Overcompensating. Each jump slightly less stable than the last. Nat pointed at the data. Their temporal offset is increasing, she said. Look, each phase shift is wider than before. John studied it. She was right. Every arrival carried more distortion. More instability. Like a machine losing calibration under stress. Nat looked at him. If we keep pressure on them, she said slowly, they might break their own timing system. John didn't respond immediately. Because that was dangerous thinking. Very dangerous. But the data supported it. Outside, Earth's defense grid finally stabilized into a coordinated pattern. Fleets began firing in tighter timing windows. Less randomness. More synchronization. Nat noticed it too. They're adapting to us, she said. John nodded. And we are adapting to them. A beat. Then Nat added quietly. That means we are learning to fight in their time distortion. John finally looked away from the screen. His voice dropped. No, he said. Net Frauenl. What then? He turned slightly. We are learning to force them back into ours. A deep silence followed. Then the dreadnought fired again. But this time, something went wrong. Half the volley missed. Not because of human interference, but because the enemy ships weren't aligned in the same temporal slice anymore. Some were ahead. Some were behind. And some were out of phase entirely. Nat stared at the screen. They're fracturing, she whispered. John nodded once. And now, he said, we just have to keep them breaking. Outside the bridge, space was no longer stable. Time itself had started to crack under the weight of two civilizations refusing to lose. The corridor did not feel like a tunnel. It felt like something alive pretending to be one. Desmond stepped inside first. The moment his boots crossed the threshold, the light changed. Not brighter. Not dimmer. Aware. Behind him, Ren followed slowly. Then Savani. Then the rest of the team. But none of them spoke. No one wanted to break the silence. Because the silence felt important. The walls were not carved. They were structured. Metal fused with stone in impossible harmony. Patterns covered every surface. Not decoration. Not art. Information. Savani raised a scanner. The device immediately overloaded. Her eyes widened. This is data storage, she whispered. No, this is more than storage. Her voice dropped. This is civilization-level compression. They walked deeper. Every step forward made the air feel heavier. Not dangerous. Just significant. Like walking inside a memory too large to fully understand. Then the corridor opened. A massive chamber. Ceiling lost in darkness. Walls curved like the inside of an ancient seed. And in the center, a platform. Perfectly smooth. Perfectly empty. Desmond stopped at the edge. The others did too. No one moved first. For a moment, nothing happened. Just stillness. Then, the voice returned. But not through sound. Through understanding. directly into the mind. Desmond heard it clearly. The others heard only distortion, static, broken fragments. And the voice began to speak. Not to the group. To him. It did not ask who he was. It already knew. It showed him something instead. The galaxy. But older. Much older. Before the current civilizations. Before recorded history. Before even the idea of modern space travel. A species. Not alien gods. Not conquerors. Builders. The first walkers. They did not use energy weapons. They did not fight wars for expansion. They built. Everything. Always. Cities carved into planets. Rivers redirected into power systems. Mountains turned into machines. And everything they built required one thing. Hands. Not telekinesis. Not automation. Not AI control systems. Hands touching matter. Understanding through contact. Desmond saw their world collapse slowly. Not from war. From time. From biology. Their bodies were failing. Their lifespan shrinking with each generation. They could not stop it. So they built one final system. Not a weapon. Not a defense. A message. A memory. A library. And they scattered it across the galaxy. Hidden inside engineered structures. Locked behind systems that only one trait could open. Real hands. Working hands. Builders' hands. Savani suddenly staggered behind him. "What is this?" she whispered. But no one answered her. Because no one else was hearing clearly. Only fragments. Only noise. The voice continued. It showed Desmond the truth. Not prophecy. Not destiny. Design. Humanity was not chosen. Not special. Not superior. It was continued. A surviving branch of an older idea. A preserved instinct. Builders who still touched the world. Still shaped matter directly. Still understood machines through contact, not command. Desmond felt something tighten in his chest. Not pride. Not fear. Something heavier. Responsibility. The voice spoke again. And this time, it explained the vault itself. It was not a treasure room. Not a weapon cache. Not a tomb. It was a keyhole. A system designed to stay silent until the correct species arrived. Not the smartest. Not the strongest. The one that still remembered how to build with hands. Behind Desmond, Ren whispered, "This doesn't make sense." But his voice shook. Because part of him already believed it. Savani stepped forward. "This is impossible," she said. "This violates evolutionary probability." But she stopped mid-sentence. Because she saw Desmond's expression. And realized something worse. He believed it. The voice shifted again. Now it showed the contents of the vault. Blueprints. Not weapons. Not control systems. Not domination technology. Engineering systems. Planet restoration designs. Atmospheric correction arrays. Water purification systems. Agricultural frameworks for barren worlds. Star stabilization structures for dying systems. Technology not for conquest, but survival. Desmond saw it all. And understood more than he should have been able to. Not the physics. The logic. The thinking behind it. The philosophy. Build. Fix. Preserve. Repeat. Behind him, Savani sank slightly to her knees. Her voice broke. "This is more advanced than anything we've ever imagined." The voice answered her. Not cruel. Not kind. Just factual. You did not forget knowledge. You forgot how to hold it. Silence. Then the chamber changed. The walls began to glow. Softly. Like awakening neurons. And the vault spoke one final time. Not to the scientists. Not to the galaxy. To Desmond. Open. The chamber did not wait. It responded. The moment the voice said open, the entire vault came alive. Not like a machine starting. Like a memory finally being remembered. Walls that had been silent for millions of years began to glow. Soft at first. Then brighter. Then everywhere at once. Patterns across the chamber shifted. Lines that looked like decorations suddenly separated into moving systems. Not lights. Not screens. Something deeper. Information written into matter itself. Desmond stood still at the center platform. His hand was still slightly raised, like the vault had frozen him mid-thought. Behind him, Savani couldn't move. Not because she was trapped, because she was overwhelmed. "This is impossible," she whispered again. But this time, her voice had changed. No longer denial. Now fear. Ren stood closer to Desmond than anyone else. His scanner was dead. Completely overloaded. But he didn't care anymore. He was watching the walls. Like they were speaking. And they were. The vault stopped speaking to Desmond as a voice. Now it broadcast. Every surface became a transmission point. Every wall a data stream. Every carved line a living equation. Outside the canyon, the ships in orbit reacted instantly. Alarms. Signal spikes. System failures. Every communication device connected to Drathis 4 lit up at once. And then the galaxy heard it. Not one voice. Not one language. All languages. All at once. Perfect translation. Perfect understanding. The library is open. Every species received the same message.
No encryption. No restriction.
No control. Just knowledge. Desmond finally lowered his hand. He looked around slowly. At Savani.
At Rain.
At the glowing walls. At the impossible truth unfolding in real time. "This is what they left behind," he whispered. Not to anyone. To himself. Savani took a shaky step forward. "This will destabilize the entire galactic order." Her voice broke halfway through. Because she realized something worse. It already was. Orbit above Drathis 4 turned into chaos. Ships from dozens of civilizations fired emergency transmissions. Some demanding control. Some begging for access. Some panicking. Some already trying to decode what was being received. But none of them could stop it. Because the vault was not sending data. It was broadcasting existence. Inside the chamber, Desmond felt it too. The knowledge was not just being transmitted. It was being offered. Freely. Completely. Without ownership. He saw it now clearly. The first walkers were not gone. They were finished. They had completed their message. And left it waiting for someone like him. A builder. A fixer. A human hand. Ren spoke quietly beside him. "What do we do now?" Desmond didn't answer immediately. He looked at his hands. Dirty. Calloused. Human. Then he looked at the vault. At the endless flow of knowledge pouring into the galaxy. And he understood something simple. Something final. "This isn't mine," he said. "It never was." Savani turned sharply. "What are you saying?" Desmond walked slowly toward the edge of the platform. "I'm saying I don't control this. I never did." The vault pulsed. As if agreeing. Outside, the galaxy was already changing. Scientists rewriting theories. Governments collapsing arguments. Entire fleets standing still just to process what they were receiving. And for the first time in recorded history, knowledge was not being fought over. It was being shared.
Rain watched Desmond carefully.
"You're just going to let it spread?" Desmond nodded. Because it was never meant to be locked. The vault's light softened. Like a machine satisfied. Or a memory finally complete. Savani looked around the chamber one last time. Then whispered. "This will change everything." Desmond answered quietly.
"No."
A pause. Then. "It already has." He turned away from the platform. Walked toward the exit. Not as a hero. Not as a leader. Just a man who fixed something broken, and stepped back. Behind him, the vault continued to speak. Not louder. Not weaker. Endlessly. The galaxy was no longer the same. And it would never go back.